This wasn't Li Yonji's first time in a jail cell, but unless the executioner changed their mind, it was looking to be her last. The kingdom of Shang had never expected much from women like Li, and she'd never expected a whole lot from Shang either. All she'd ever wanted was enough room to slip about, pulling the small jobs and scams that had always kept her stomach and her pockets, well, not full, but at least more than empty. That'd been easy enough to manage during the Tomo Denise occupation, and she figured it should have been even easier now that the Shang kingdom was rebuilding itself. For the most part, she'd even been right. She just hadn't accounted for the depths to which some people would stoop to be a prick. She didn't bother getting to her feet as two officers appeared beyond the bars of her cell. They were a tall woman and a short man, in scarlet guard uniforms of fine Shang wool. The tall guard rattled the cell's bars with her baton. "On your feet," Lee said with a quirk of her eyebrow. It was thin and long and sharp, like the rest of her face, like the rest of her everything. "That was what you were going to say, right? Figured I'd save you some breath, considering you Shang are about to save me a lot of mine." "Mouth off all you want," said the short guard. "See what kind of mercy that gets you." "Oh, come on," Lee pouted. "Could you convict and execute a face like this?" The tall guard sneered. "Get on your feet, or I'll summon my shade and leave it in there with you. You're just a dog fucker. I wouldn't even get in trouble." There was a time when the slur dog fucker would have hurt Lee's feelings, but for any of the thousands of Jiangsanese living in Shang, that particular slur lost its impact by their third birthday, and Lee was a good 18 years removed from her third birthday. She barely even registered the term now. So, in the face of the woman's threat, Lee just shrugged. "Fuck it. Go ahead. If your shade's a dog, I'd probably find a way to enjoy myself." The thought of actually fucking a dog made her skin crawl. But if these puffed-up Shang were dead set on seeing her as nothing more than a dog fucker, why not play the role to the hilt on her way off the stage? The woman was unamused by Lee's performance. "You don't want me to do that, girl. She bites." She held up a hand, which was missing its last two fingers. Lee considered pointing out it was extremely unlikely that the shade had done that, since shades were supposed to contain part of their human partner's soul, and vice versa. But rather than annoy this guard, who'd just as soon do the executioner's job for them, she sighed and stood at last. "Lead the way, officers," she said, and let them take her on one last walk through the kennel. The prison hadn't always been called the kennel. Under Tomo Denise's control, it had been called Fort Asanuma, after the daito who'd once ruled Zhengshao, and before that, in the days of the first Shang kingdom, it had been called the Temple of Justice. Even now, with Tomoda defeated and Shang ascendant once more, it had just been renamed Zhengshao Prison. But the locals on both sides of the bars called it the kennel, and who was Lee to argue with custom? Besides, in her book, there were worse things to be compared to than a dog. The kennel's corridors were open air, the cell blocks forming separate buildings within a larger courtyard. This meant her cell got sunlight most days, but today there were only thick gray clouds and a thin, steady drizzle. The rain collected between the slate tiles underfoot, and they sloshed faintly with each step Lee took toward her impending death.